Are you looking to leverage the latest and best ideas to grow your advisory business from the best minds in the industry? Join us every Wednesday at noon Pacific for our speaker series, featuring dynamic guests sharing real strategies for real results. Brought to you by The Best Notary, where we help estate planning attorneys grow their business with less stress and more success.
So, welcome everyone to another session of the Best Notary Speaker Series. Today's guest is Tom Fafinski. He is going to be talking to us about why you feel so busy and aren't growing and what to do about it. This series is all about connection and about highlighting trusted advisors in the professional services space. The host today is The Best Notary, and here to introduce the speaker is Eli. But before we begin, just a few reminders. This presentation is being recorded. You'll receive a copy of the slides after the session, and the recording will also be available later on YouTube. Feel free to put questions in the chat during the session, and he can reply to them as soon as he can during the session. So I will turn it over to Eli to introduce Tom.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Tom, for being here and our guests.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom, where do I start? Tom Fafinski is the co-founder of Epic Peer Groups and Virtus Law Firm PLLC, an 8-attorney Minneapolis law firm serving moderate to high net worth clients in estate planning with the niche focus in the technology industry. After experiencing firsthand the impact of peer collaboration in his own entrepreneurial journey, Tom co-founded Epic Peer Groups to bring that same level of insight, accountability, and strategic support to estate planning law firms, owners. What began as a beta program within Wealth Counsel evolved into a national peer network officially branded as Epic in 2020, when the pandemic hit. Today, Epic facilitates structured peer groups designed to help law firms owners grow intentionally through facilitator-led discussions, performance benchmarking, and shared learning. Tom works closely with members to navigate operational challenges, implement systems, and make better long-term business decisions. The results speak to the effectiveness of this approach. Between 2020 and 2025, Epic members reported average annual revenue growth of 186%. That's incredible.
Yeah, it really
average
is.
annual profit growth of 634%. I want to hear more about that, Tom. Demonstrating the impact of consistent collaboration and accountability. In addition to his work with Epic, Tom remains active with Virtus Law as an attorney and entrepreneur. Having built, scaled, and sold his own law practice, he brings a practical and experience-driven perspective to law firm leadership and growth. Tom is also a frequent national speaker and author, recognized for his clear, actionable insights of building and operating a modern estate planning practice. Without further ado, I present to you Tom Fafinski.
Wow, Eli, thank you. What a great introduction. Thank you. Yeah, so what happened was I was teaching a CLE for Wealth Counsel on how to bring buy-sell agreements into your estate planning practice, and this was back in like 2014 or something like that. And they, in the course of that, I mentioned a business principle, and I don't remember what the metric was that I was talking about, but one of the audience members who happened to be a founder of Wealth Counsel asked me where I learned that. And I said, well, I'm in a local peer group, non-industry specific, and it was since 2002, and one of the guys there that runs a billion-dollar business was really driven by metrics, and he could forecast what was going to happen and things like that. And so I learned a ton from him. And afterwards, they approached me and said, tell us more about that peer group. Like, well, yeah, I ended up becoming a facilitator in '08, and it's non-industry specific. And they're like, well, would you ever do one with Wealth Counsel for industry specific? And sure. That I kind of it wasn't a straight line getting into Epic, and it's no longer affiliated with Wealth Counsel. We sprung out in 2020 as Epic, or rebranded, like you said, as Epic, and it's a but it's a really, really powerful tool of people just helping people. First, you get things, you measure things, and then you know what you're dealing with. And then once you start measuring it, then you attack the areas that are weak. And if you're benchmarking with other similarly situated law firms, then you're able to see what numbers should be or could be or what's average. And, for instance, if your rent is below 5% of your gross revenue, don't even bother trying to get better rent. That's right in the industry, 5 to 7%, 5 to 8%. It's right down the middle, and you shouldn't try to waste time trying to improve that. So it accelerates everything. And so when people are talking about like, how did you get so much, revenue per full-time equivalent, people share it. And because they're located in different jurisdictions, they're so willing to share that information. And it's really just kind of grown from word of mouth through Wealth Counsel. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Two
Uh,
quick thoughts, Tom, on that. Just a couple thoughts. Number one, there's that saying, I forget who said it, Peter Drucker or someone, what is measured improves. What is
what
measured
measured gets
and
done. Yeah.
what is measured and reported improves exponentially. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
reporting to a group, being having accountability of a group is really powerful.
It really is. And so every quarter, we go through our financials and we benchmark them against each other. We spend a couple hours going through, and then I do specific one-on-one pre-recorded sessions with regard to their metrics and
Mhm.
what I'm seeing and what I think that they need to improve. So some of them aren't. I was a finance major in college and run businesses my whole life, and so for me it's like brushing my teeth. I
Breathing.
mean, it's
It's
just
like
what I
breathing.
do, right? Yeah, it's like breathing. And so for somebody who isn't of that mind, it's helpful to have a facilitator who will explain, what does that mean and what is it saying to me? So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really, really a powerful tool when you're comparing it with other folks. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
there's a great book called The Theory of Constraints, and it
Mm.
was written by Eli Goldratt. So another Eli,
All
um,
right.
and it was written in the 80s, and it was a book called The Goal. Great book. But he talks about bottlenecks but we see this hourglass here, and so this is the bottleneck that most lawyers are dealing with. And what they believe is like, oh, my people aren't good, or I don't have enough leads coming in. But the reality is they're probably the problem. Um, they're probably the bottleneck. And so, and we can measure it, we can see it happen, and we can understand, that it is happening and how to fix it. So that's what this is going to be about. A lot of folks think that they need more leads. It's not necessarily leads that you need. It maybe is just you can create more capacity just by having systems that get your current leads down to the bottom of the funnel without as much work.
Mm.
Imagine if you have a system in place that saves you a day a week. What could you do with that day? You,
Mhm.
you go out and meet with 4 or 5 financial advisors or trusted advisors, and they would send you work, and then you would have all the leads you need. So what's preventing you from doing that is you're in the grind and you are
Mhm.
trying to figure out what needs to happen. In fact, lots of times people feel like they're so busy. And jump in with questions at any time with anybody. They feel so busy that they feel like they need another attorney. And what they
Mhm.
really need is somebody to get some of the non-lawyer things finished. We have this exercise that we go through for new members and sometimes existing members when their revenue per attorney starts to go down. And we call it a do not do list. And the do
Mm.
not do list is just, I'm a paperless guy. And so if you looked at my desk right now, I don't have a sheet of paper. I don't even have my do not do list on here. Um, and
That's good.
And what we do is we say, just take one notepad and a pen, because it's irritating. People like me that don't like paper, it's irritating to see paper on your desk. It makes you nervous and you want to get it off. So that's a constant reminder of your do not do list. And if you're not that, a paperless person and it isn't bothersome, then find something that is. Maybe it's a notepad on your screen or something like that. But every time you do something that somebody else could do for $30 an hour or less, you should add it to your list. And that is, eventually you're going to have a job description filled out where you can hire somebody and to do some of those things. And then your numbers will go back up on the revenue per attorney, which is an important metric. Better sales process. I do think that most lawyers could improve with a sales process. Most lawyers, I shouldn't say most, every lawyer that's joined Epic that I'm aware of doesn't have an established sales process. They'll say, no, I got a process, but they don't really have a sales process. And they may have a marketing process, and they may have a pre-engagement process, but they don't really have a sales process. And you guys, is part of who I am, and it's been ingrained in me, but so you probably have experienced it. But you got to start with a nice greeting, and you got to be friendly, and you can't just jump in and say, okay, what do you need? You have to find areas of commonality, and if you really truly want to, sell at a nice number, you really should understand what the pain is and explore that pain. And then when you come back to the part where you're designing a solution, you go back and revisit the pieces that they said were painful. I did a seminar for Wealth Counsel actually, and said, stop kidding yourself. We're all in sales. And I truly mean it. I think the difference between us and you guys, the best notary, you guys aren't going to sell something that people don't need. Right. And nor should estate planning attorneys. Estate planning attorneys shouldn't sell some sophisticated trust, irrevocable trust, if it's not needed for the client. That's what makes us professionals. We are not doing it for, because, we could get them to do this and therefore we should. That's not what we're thinking about. We're more like physicians who are doing things because it's the right thing to do. And I think that's what separates us from, not to talk smack about used car salespeople, because there's nothing wrong with that. But a used car, if I walked into a used car sales and I said, hey, I'd like to buy a Maserati as my primary vehicle. Well, where do you live? I live in Minnesota. There's 6 months a year you can't drive it. But the used car salesperson doesn't care. You want a Maserati? I'll sell you a Maserati. And so that's really the difference. And if I find that the lawyers that come into Epic don't come in with an established sales practice or process. They just say, I'm going to get to know them and be friendly and come up with solutions for them. And they don't explore pain like they should. It should make the other side feel uncomfortable because they're there for a reason. I don't think my kids can responsibly spend the money. Instead of saying, oh, okay, well, we could fix that. How about saying why? Why do you think that's the case? Have they been involved in drugs? Do they have work ethic problems? Do they suffer from a lack of ambition? Because now if they say they suffer from a lack of ambition, we can say, build a solution well, we could do a regular trust, and the trust is an I love you revocable living trust that dumps all the wealth to the next generation upon your passing, but bypasses probate. That, they were like, oh, okay. But if you say, but we can also put in some safeguards that encourage them to work hard. And if they make $100,000 a year or whatever the average adjusted gross income for the household in the state in which they reside, we can do a matching distribution from their inheritance. So it encourages them, and it's income tax free. It encourages them to want to work harder, because if they're at $90,000 a year and the number is 100, they may work hard for that bonus. They may take a part-time job, or do something, And if work ethic is a big important thing for you as a core value, then your incentive. But you don't get to that if you just bypass it. Say, that you think they're a response. Oh, okay, well, we can fix that.
Mm.
They don't understand the pain that you're seeking. So anyway, sales process is a big piece of how you can improve, and then you can measure yourself, especially with AI, and people are recording notes to minutes. You can record, or meetings. You can record the meeting and run it through AI and say, how'd I do on my process? And it'll give you a report card, tell you how you did. Make sure it's, the closed loop version of the recording, so it doesn't feed up to the larger language model.
Yeah.
So I have run, I've been practicing for 35 years, and I've run through some periods where I've had slow times. And all I do when I get to a slow period is I call financial advisors to check in how they're doing. And I don't say, hey, I need work. I just call in and like, hey, what's been going on? What's happening with your family? How was your summer? And inevitably, 2 out of 3 of those advisors I talk to, I'll get a lead from in the next 3 months, and because you're top of mind. And so that is when you are taking away some of the stress associated with managing the practice, you're freed up to do some of that stuff. So the most important metrics, we measure a ton. But if I were to say, what are the ones that I really, really tell me if a firm is doing well, is revenue per salary dollar. So that is how much revenue is generated from your payroll expense. Our payroll expense in estate planning law firms is the biggest expense that we have. And it is, roughly 50% of your gross revenue. And so, hopefully it's a little less. Maybe it's 40. Hopefully it's 40. But when we look at what revenue we get for every dollar we spend, it's kind of the inverse of that percentage of gross revenue. I like to measure metrics so that they're always moving up and to the right. Oh, that's the wrong way. Up, I'm mirrored here. Up and to the right. So that as long as it's moving up, things are probably going to be okay. Not that it can't move down. Sometimes we want it to move down, but that's just kind of the default rule. So all we did was we took the revenue, the percentage of payroll to revenue, and I'm talking payroll taxes, benefits, all that stuff. And we just did the inverse of it so that we got a nicer number to work with. And so, we like to see people at 2+, 2.25 revenue per salary dollar. So for every $2.25 you spend for every $1 you spend in payroll, you get $2.25 back in revenue. Revenue per full-time. So that measures the efficacy of your compensation. Like how are people being underpaid or overpaid? If your revenue per salary dollar is at 4 or 5, you might look at it and say, I'm burning people out. I might want this number to turn down. I might need to get people more help. Last thing I want, the most inefficient thing for us as lawyers to do is to take a good person and run them into the ground and then have to start over again with somebody else. It's a lot more effective just to keep the same people going smoothly. The next metric that I think is really important is the revenue per full-time equivalent. That's the number of hands in the cookie jar. How many people do you have on your team that are managing the process? Not just lawyers, but we're talking, marketing coordinators and legal assistants and paralegals and firm administrators. We just want to know how much revenue can we get per FTE. 200 grand is a pretty good number, but it really is relative to your market and to other similarly sized firms. But the 200, if you're like, how am I doing? 200 grand is probably passable. 150 is probably okay, depending on your market, depending on what your revenue per salary dollar is too. But the engine should be able to generate a certain amount of revenue for every person that you bring in. And now combine that with the do not do list. So most law firms are like this. It's a pyramid. When we do the do not do list, that means we're freeing up the people at the top of the pyramid, the most skilled in estate planning anyway. We're freeing them up by broadening the base. And when you broaden the base, that means more revenue can go through the top. And it's only when the person at the top is at full capacity with the things that only the lawyer can do that you are at a spot where you should hire another lawyer. I mean, you might want to in preparation for it, but you really should if you're at full capacity. Otherwise, you're ripe and rotting. You're either green and growing or ripe and rotting. You get to pick. And then the revenue.
Real quick, Tom.
Yeah.
What are some of those things that only the lawyer can do? I'd love to hear,
Yeah.
from what are some of those things? A few things.
Primarily it comes to designing the estate plan. Like this is what you should have and making the recommendation. And then doing the final review of what the estate plan drafts were made for you. Lawyer, I don't do drafting unless it's really a really complicated trust that I'm working on, like an irrevocable trust that is self-settled and in another jurisdiction or something like. That's when I'm actually looking at the drafting and doing. But most of the drafting should be done by somebody who you train, and you give them the step-by-step. You give processes and systems. Tell them this is how you should do it.
Yep.
I do not attend. Lots of folks will say, well, you got to be there to walk them through it. I don't do that. I do a pre-recorded video that walks them through the trust and all of the ancillary documents, and then invite them to reach out for any questions or changes that they have. And I'm totally remote, so we just do it by Zoom. It's a wonderful way to practice remotely. You can practice forever. I mean, like I have no intention of ever stopping. And I can make them modify. And I tell them right out of the gate, I'm not going to be there for the closing, and they don't expect it, so they're not disappointed at all. And then normally I have a paralegal that does the actual signing ceremony, and if there are any questions from there, they just Zoom me in. So that's another piece where that meeting would take me an hour to an hour and a half. And part of it is it doesn't take an hour and a half to explain. It takes about 20 minutes, 15 minutes to walk through it. I know because I do the video summaries of it. But I like people, and I want to, hey, how's it going? And you go through all the pleasantries, and you're joking around and having fun and all that stuff. And it's not something that another person can't do. Make them feel welcome, make them feel like you're greeting them with hospitality, and make it a pleasant experience for them. In fact, it's probably more pleasant with my paralegals than it is with me. After you've done 1,000 of them, it's like you're running through it like a kind of, so.
But Tom, real quick, Tom, some of my clients say, well, they're paying $6,000 for this plan, right? I want to be there physically because, they're paying for me. I hear that quite a bit. What do you say to a lawyer like that who is saying, if I'm not there myself, it's sort of like a reduced level of service in some way, shape, or form?
It's about communication, and it's about explaining to the client right out of the gate, this is our process. I don't say, hey, I'm not going to be there at the closing, so if that's a deal breaker, you should go somewhere else. I just walk them through the process. First step is you sign the retainer. Here's what the fee is. After now we've done the design for it, and you'll get a questionnaire in the mail that or by email with some additional information that we need based upon the outcomes of our discovery session. And then, drafting will occur. I have a team that helps me with the drafting, and then I go through the drafts to make sure that they're exactly how we have designed it, that the recipe is being adhered to. I'm tasting it to make sure it tastes right. And then I turn it over I do a video summary and I send it to you, and then I turn it over to a paralegal who will be there for the signing ceremony. Now, you're gonna be talking to me throughout this whole process, and the signing is really just a ceremony. You're just going to walk in. They have flags where you're supposed to sign, and they sign it. And we do it at your convenience. And we'll come to your house if you need to, but you can come in. We have multiple offices. If you want to do a statewide practice, I mean, you got to use the best notary for that because you can go anywhere then. And so they expect it. So they're not disappointed at all. In fact, it turns out to be exactly what I told them it would be before they agreed to retain me. Now, if I didn't say it and I just didn't show up, I could see why they would be disappointed and upset. But that's not their experience. So the revenue per FTE is a good measure for how well your firm is working as a machine. If there are places that need to be oiled, if the process needs to be smoothed out, it'll show up in the revenue per full-time equivalent. And then the revenue per attorney is just that output, like how much can we work through one attorney just doing only attorney things. And that number is, surprisingly, can be quite high. The highest I've seen it, I have an Epic member, the highest one lawyer, 6 staff, and it was just under 3 million. It was a machine. I mean, it was a total machine.
Wow.
Everything was done, and plans were presented to him. Now, reasonably, we see it more like $1 million per attorney as being a little bit more reasonable goal to achieve. But it's very, very doable, especially if you're measuring it on a quarterly basis. So that revenue per attorney really tells you how, and then you get to a certain level where you just can't get more. And then okay, I got to add another attorney if I want to get this thing to be green and growing again. So the metrics, if we have high revenue, low profit, that's almost always an operational inefficiency. If there's high attorney utilization, which is an indication that you got attorneys working their heads off, but their revenue per attorney is like $400,000 a year, $350 a year, and not $750. Then okay, we're asking them to do far too much administratively. If you have growing revenue, but your revenue is falling as a function of revenue per full-time equivalent, then you have a scaling problem. It's process. There's something in the process. The addition of new folks isn't sticking. Somewhere that we got to go find out. Is there one person that's not doing a good job acclimating to the systems? And again, AI is wonderful for that because now we can build our own personas, put all of our processes and procedures into a persona, and everybody has access to the persona, and they can just ask the questions based on presentations that you've done before or recordings that you've done before. Here's a dirty little secret. People say I'm so busy. They say this to me all the time about joining a peer group. I'm too busy to join a peer group. It's like, you got to be kidding me. If you're too busy to join a peer group, that means, unless you're doing $2 million per attorney, if you're too busy doing a peer group, that means that you probably need a peer group because you shouldn't be bothered by that. Hi, Elijah.
Hey, good to see you, Eli.
I am so sorry. I was clicking on the wrong button for sitting there for 15 minutes. So
You should have called us earlier, Elijah, but you're here and we're happy. For context, Elijah Keys is one of our clients and has been a member of Tom's peer groups. I think for how many years, Elijah, have you been working with Tom?
I think I've been in the peer groups for about 3 years, if I remember right. Tom, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And we were just going through some of the key metrics, Elijah, and your revenue per salary dollar is phenomenal. Your revenue per full-time equivalent has been phenomenal. And then as you're growing your revenue per attorney, it keeps going up. And Elijah recognized, hey, I need to add more staff so I could free up my attorneys to do more. So temporary dips in revenue per full-time equivalent will occur when you bring on new staff members. If it lasts more than a quarter, maybe 2, it can go down a little bit, or it can go down like that for the first quarter, and then if it goes like this a little bit, that's okay. If it continues to be steep, then you probably got a wrong person on board. But Elijah runs this thing, you guys. It's like a pilot flying a plane on instruments. And I don't know if these are the only 3 metrics you're looking at, Elijah, but you do excel in all 3 of these metrics. And when you have a dip, it appears intentional so that you'll have growth otherwise.
Yeah, so that's actually true of my firm. I track 5 other metrics that aren't listed there. But revenue per salary dollar is a really good operational metric to understand. Is my team as efficient as they need to be, or is there some bottleneck that's keeping me from collecting revenue along the way? Because as attorneys, we're transactional practitioners. That means that I don't get a client and I keep that client for 20 years. That means I get a client, I fix an issue, and then I move on. And as a estate planning practitioner, it's just a little bit odd because oftentimes clients will come back for more things. But revenue per salary dollar is something that we track all the time. Tom has recommended metrics. I tend to try to stay above what his metrics recommend, but it dips. And when it does, it's just a good benchmark to see whether things are working well or whether they're not.
Yeah. And I may be bragging a little bit for you, Elijah, but when you joined in 2022, your revenue numbers have grown 6 times what they were in 2022. You run this thing like a pro, man. I mean, what are the other metrics that you use other than these 3? I'm curious.
So we recognized in the last 2 or 3 years what business we're actually in. Thank you for those congratulations. It's a lot of work, but yeah, our revenue has grown times 6x where it was, and our firm is very different. When I joined, we had 3 employees. We just hired number 14 yesterday. And so we're looking for another attorney as well, so it'll be 15 soon. But the way the metrics that we follow are basic metrics of understanding how the flow of customers run through the business to try to predict future revenue changes. So I track the number of leads that come in, and from that qualified leads, then our conversion rate, then our average fee that each customer pays, and our profit, and then our client happiness score, which is called an NPS score, a net promoter score. And we track that in 2 different ways, but those are the 5 numbers that we always look at. Our net promoter score is very, very good, meaning that people are happy, meaning that we can actually slow down our services a little bit. We can have a little bit more play in our services because we're delivering to a company. So that's what each one of those numbers shows me something different.
Now I want to share why Elijah knows why I'll call you Elijah and then I talked about Eli Goldratt too, Elijah. So we got 3 Eli's
Eli's
going on here.
It's actually the first book that I read recommended by you.
Yeah, it's a good book. So for 2 quarters, Elijah was like this. And then in the last quarter, revenue per FTE attorneys. And then his last quarter, still growth, but the trajectory of growth went like this, just a little bit down. And so from that, and looking at the revenue per full-time equivalent having plateaued, Elijah was like, yeah, I need a new attorney if I'm going to keep being green and growing.
Right. We had to table the attorney function because we were losing a key paralegal who's a high producer, and so that was first on the chopping block. And so this quarter we might be more flat if we don't hire another attorney. We're actively looking, but replacing that paralegal was more important than hiring the attorney. The attorney is for growth, the paralegal is for sustainability. So it was more important to attract that paralegal first, and so that was the first one that we hired. Now onto the attorney.
And so, question,
Oh yeah.
Real quick, Elijah, is this a remote paralegal or in-office paralegal? Curious about how you've approached in-office versus remote, because that's I hear a lot about it. It's hard to find, staff in my local market. So tell us about that.
Our staff is actually 50-50 remote in person. We choose in-person people because they want to physically be here. If no one wanted to be in my office, then we'd simply change our practice and it would be 100% remote. But the way that my staff works, a lot of them want to be here. In fact, we hired someone remote, and she said, "Well, I'm from there. I want to move back." Well, okay, that's fine with me. I have office space, and so I have one attorney who's remote. I have one attorney who's in person, and then myself. And so, just looking for more staffing. The next attorney could be remote or could be in person. It doesn't matter to me. It just matters what need we fill. So that's just how my firm works. The reason why I do that is because we have a lot of virtual individuals. That allows us to hire really high quality, high value individuals locally here. But then we can hire very high quality, but individuals who live in other locations, so the price is lower. And we did that by learning first how to handle one remote employee, just one. And then we added to 2, and now we have 6 or 7. So you learn it once, you do it once, you perfect it, and then you scale.
Amazing.
And then, once he hires this attorney, his revenue per full-time attorney will actually go down. And it'll probably go down for, steeply in the first quarter, and then probably the second quarter still probably go down a little bit, but then it'll probably turn. A lot of times people get to that third quarter and they're like, I'm firing them. And they're just right, almost there. It's just right in front of you. You just got to be patient and understand all the other metrics are fine. So you just got to understand that happens. This is part, Elijah, this is the thing that amazes me is that people look at it, they're so busy. I got all this stuff going on, everything on the screen here. And they're like, I don't know how I would ever do more. And excess capacity is more profit. Because if your biggest expense is payroll and you're adding from the bottom of your payroll and you're getting $2 plus of revenue for every $1 spent in payroll, you're missing out on that, equivalent of 1 times comp for this person in additional profits. And it's sad, but people feel like if I'm busy, I don't have time to do this other stuff. And I'm afraid to expand. I'm afraid not to have people being busy. Excess capacity is really a gift that allows you to make more money, more profits.
It comes back to a book that I read called The Anthology of Naval Ravikant, and talked about the key to productivity in a business. And it really comes down to trying to get other people or other things to do work for you. And so as my firm scaled, I tried to find how can I have other people do the work that I'm doing now so that I can relieve myself of that role. And so I found that the firm accelerated much more quickly when I just got out of the way. I hired good people, gave them good training, gave them good resources, mentored them, and then got out of the way. And then the firm rocketed.
Hey, Elijah, but what if they make mistakes? What if they don't do it as well as you do? A lot of my solos are like,
they're probably not going to do as well as me at first, and they shouldn't. I mean, imagine Eli, if I came and I tried to run the company that you run, which is outstanding. I tried to build my own Salesforce, tried to run my own Salesforce system to develop. I would fall flat on my face. But that's not the goal, right? The goal is people are going to make mistakes, and they should. If they did it perfectly at the beginning, then I would expect that they should have that job already. But if they don't, that's okay. So I think quite often about the keys to delegation, which is 8 steps. That's something I learned from Tom. You have an 8-step delegation routine. First, you explain the problem and explain the timing. Then you show them how to do it. and you show them 1 or 2 or more times, and you record it so that you can go back to it. Then you watch them do it and then stop them and go back and readdress and teach how to do it again and refer back to the lesson. And maybe your lesson sucks. And so then the person learns how to do it again. And so you record the lesson again. And then you go back and you spot audit, and then you let them go. And then they train the next person. The problem that people have when they say, I can't find any good people. I can't find any good. That's because you suck at training. And it's okay to be bad at something. I sucked at training. I was horrible at it. But I've gotten better, and I've gotten better and better and better. And so I keep doing the same things over and over and over again. There's a man named Alex Hormozy, who I listen to quite often, who runs $250 million in businesses. And he says he's going to keep stacking his skills in one vertical so that he can take advantage of any unfair advantage that he can. He's going to stack as many skills as he can in one place, and if keep working, he's going to keep stacking it, because if it works, why change it? Too many attorneys say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to recreate this because I'm so smart. My answer is, I would rather be rich than smart.
Yeah. There's a tendency, Eli, that people, they want to be Tom Brady and they're not happy being Bill Belichick. You know, what the goal is to be Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's career as a coach lasted a hell of a lot longer than Tom Brady's. And Tom Brady had a great career, right? But we just got to be good coaches and empower others to be awesome at what they do. There's I go to football a lot, but I remember when Brett Favre first came out, he was terrible. Oh my God, he was awful. I'm not a Green Bay fan. In fact, I don't like Green Bay, but he was terrible. It was so fun to watch. But he got coached up and learned the wisdom of the game and how it works and what he needs to do. And so we got to be more like Bill Belichick and less desiring to be like Tom Brady. This is what we've seen across all the members. The bottlenecks really aren't the problem, or excuse me, lead deficits aren't really the problem. It's bottlenecks. That's really the inhibitor to green and growing is that bottleneck problem. You got to have systems, and the systems have to be completely revised over time as the practice gets bigger and bigger. The systems that Elijah had in 2022, just 4 years ago, are not the same systems he has in place now at all. They may look a little alike, but he's continued to build and build and build on those systems. And we all need to do that. There's so much reliance on attorneys in the historic way of practicing law. It's just not necessary. Just because Eli is a brilliant attorney doesn't mean he's good at filling out the wealth counsel interview. Doesn't mean he's good at being a AI guy, although you are pretty good at AI, Elijah. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he should be the tech guy or the HR guy or hiring. Oh my God. Elijah, should you be hiring?
No, I choose the bad people. My team interviews first. They make 2 recommendations. I often choose the wrong one. So I don't even say which one I like. Then they come back and they say, I like this person. And I say, great, hire him. Because they make much better hiring decisions than I do. I'm not in charge of that.
And you don't know that until you
are
start
terrible
measuring it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was that, Eli?
Most founders are terrible at hiring.
Yeah.
I joined a group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization.
Yeah.
It's very similar to Epic. That was the number one thing that, the founder typically should get out of the way when it comes to screening them, because they're too optimistic. What makes you a great entrepreneur makes you a terrible judge of potential new hires.
Yeah. These are all things that lawyers, when they first start in Epic, they're doing all this stuff. They're doing the intake, the information gathering, reviewing drafts that aren't pre-reviewed by somebody else. They're the ones that are reaching out to the client, trying to explain things to the client instead of having a video that's been recorded you've said it 100 times. Why don't you record it once and stop saying it 100 times? they're the ones responsible for communication and coordinating the signings and then the post signing funding pieces. Like, lawyers should not be doing this stuff. You know, we are to take the information that that is in discovery, and of course we want to develop the relationship with the person, but the discovery information should be to us before we have that opportunity to sit down. We shouldn't go in there blind. These are issues that we had an Epic member, key associate left. They were going to hire a replacement. They were persuaded not to hire a replacement to the key associate. They reworked the workflow, improved delegation, using Kanban boards. They reduced operational friction, and they added two less experienced attorneys. And then I can't remember what this timeline was, but I think it was 3 years. Their revenue went from 1.6 to 2.8 on less salary. And the owner was like happy as a lark. You know, wasn't working anywhere near as hard. And this is the owner dependency problem. There's I mentioned this before earlier, Elijah. There's primary drivers and they are focused on, the three main silos. They do all the sales and marketing, all the production, they do all the finance and administration, and they just own a job and they got to give up on this stuff. And once they give up on this stuff, they move into a business operator and then eventually an enterprise leader when they're not in charge of all three, or maybe they do a little bit of sales and marketing, but they're still not the lead on it. Then it's a real business. It's a saleable business. That becomes the issue. And people are feeling like they got to know how all of this stuff does. Production systems, Elijah, I'm going to let you talk about production systems because you're a god at that.
No. Well, so the production systems, really what I think about is I used to think about the tasks that were needed, every individual task that was needed to move a person from one stage to another in some sort of pipeline. But I realize that it's not a task, really what it is. It's a series of, that they are tasks that are needed to be done, but it's actually a series of steps and stages that someone has to move through. And the tasks are simply the benchmarks that show how far along the progress that thing is. And too many attorneys focus on the task that's needed rather than focusing on what the customer delivery is. So what is the customer experience? And so our production systems have shifted from a task-focused enterprise into a delivery-focused enterprise. So rather than telling the customer, we're gonna build your documents now, and now your documents are in internal review, and we're gonna send them to you, and then the customer is asking, well, where is it now? Where is it now? Instead, we tell the customer, this is your deliverable to us, and here's when you can expect our deliverable to you. And here's the next step that you have to do before you come back to us. So we give them something to do. Give them something to do, because the client experience should be the most important thing in your firm. The absolute most important, because the client experience is going to make sure that people come back. And so from a production series, I always think about it. What does the customer experience? How can I make it better? How can we improve things? So we constantly improve. It's one of our values is relentless improvement. If we're not improving, we're standing still.
Elijah, you manage more stages than you do individual steps in the stage. I mean, when a matter comes in, and it's in drafting, for instance, Elijah isn't going in and saying, well, what needs to be done in order to get the drafting finished? What questions do you need answered? No, it's like, where are we at on this? Oh, we're in drafting. What do we need to do to get it out of drafting? And then he's got somebody else that's in charge of making sure that stuff happens.
Yeah, we have 28 stages to an estate plan build.
Yeah.
And so
you're just managing where they're at in the stage and not even that. I mean, you got people that are doing that.
We built a custom Kanban board that actually has different stages and automations throughout. And so each individual step has a Kanban stage. And so we did those to show where friction was in the organization. because the goal, the description of the goal, the book by Goldrat talks about a Boy Scout troop and the fat kid who's walking through the Boy Scout troop, and the fat kid is always the slow one. And so you take the back on, you give to somebody else, but then somebody else is the slow one. So how do you get things through faster? Because that's one of the four. Yeah, I have it at my desk at home. That's one of the four types of money in a law firm. There's four types of money. Number one is revenue, money coming in. Number two is profit, money coming out. Number three is what Tom just talked about. He talked about enterprise value, what you can sell your company for to another person who's willing to pay. And then number four, there's a fourth type of money, which is flow. How can you get work product where people owe you money through the system faster so that they pay you faster?
Yeah, because the more times you touch it, the less money you're going to make on it. So like, imagine if somebody came in with a really simple estate plan, they had everything that they needed. It's just an I love you, revocable living trust. Everything gets dumped to the next generation. You know, if somebody is sitting in front of me, I could probably be done with that in 20 minutes. And my paralegal could probably be done with it in 40 minutes. And if the person were they just sit in the lobby and we'll get it out to you, we could actually walk through it, and in 2 hours, hour and a half, everything would be finished. And that would be probably some of the most profitable use of our time, especially if most of it's paralegal time, because we touched it so infrequently. We didn't have to manage it. And the more you have to manage it and work through it, the harder it is. We have some members that when they sign up for a meeting, I'm going to do an intake with Elijah. Okay, well, what day works for you? Well, I can do June 3rd. Okay, so June 3rd. Now it's going to take 3 weeks for this to be done. So let's pick the closing date when you're going to be signing this. So are you available June 24th? And they say, well, I don't even know if I'm going to work with them. Oh, everybody works with Elijah when they come in to meet with him. Nobody says no. I mean, it's so rare, and we just cancel it if they do. Well, we just did a presumptive close. Guess what? We're all in sales. We did a presumptive close. We also set a deadline for the end date. We also forced our system now to kick it out in 3 weeks because it's scheduled for June 24th. It's got to get done. So the less we touch it, the better. Now, here's the part where the best notary is fantastic. Most of us have spent a career in a metropolitan area where people are willing to drive 20 minutes, maybe 25. If you're really, really good, they might go 45. Now, Elijah, you're in a different world. California is different, and people probably drive further. But for me, people probably drive about 30 miles. So years ago, we thought, okay, well, we're in a major metropolitan area. We want to serve this market. So we have a northwest office, a southwest office, a southeast office, and a north east office. And then we added one up north about 40 minutes from the metro area, and one down south about 40 minutes from the south of the metro area. We had 6 offices. Now, they're not all like fully staffed, and I think 3 of them are staffed. And we've closed down 1, 2. But, it was all about getting within 20 minutes of our ideal customer. And you don't have to do that if you work with the best notary. You don't have to incur that rental fee. You don't have to incur the technology fees. You don't have to incur. And if you think for a minute that somebody will go more than 30 minutes from you, then you must live in California. Because that's the only place. Elijah, how far will people drive for you?
About 30 minutes. Same thing.
Okay.
It's the same thing. It's really a matter of convenience. So if you can sign remotely, I mean, we've sent Eli and Stephanie's company. We've sent them to. I'm in Central California, so Silicon Valley, kind of halfway up, halfway down, and that's about where Eli and Stephanie are as well. But we've sent them to San Diego, LA, all across the state. In fact, I asked them, can you do a signing in Texas? And they said, remote online notary. So I've referred them to people in Lebanon. I have clients in Thailand. It's wherever they are, You can do a notarization so long as there's a computer and a screen and an ID. Eli, I'm sending you another client. She's in the Philippines. So
And
she's
you
Wow,
don't
she's the
have
future.
any of the physical costs. You don't have the personnel costs. You don't have the benefits. You don't have the tax, payroll tax withholding issues. You don't have to staff multiple offices. You don't have to do, what am I going to do when it's downtime? So this whole kind of pay as you go, this is the move of our society. I mean, our whole society is going in this direction. And if you want to like automatically geographically expand your region, just look at the boundaries of your state. And that's really your limitation.
And then, Tom, I want to add some A-plus attorneys, they're going beyond the boundaries of their state. They are finding co-counsel in other
Yeah.
states and doing business in 40 plus states. One of my
Yeah.
clients in Philadelphia, that's what she's doing. She serves the LGBT community. So, right, they may not get enough people that cater to their needs in their home state. So, through her Instagram channel, which is at 50,000 subscribers, she is literally, a nationwide law firm
Yeah.
through her networks of co-counsel. So, yeah, sky's the limit these days.
And I don't do 2 million in revenue, but it's pretty damn close to 2 million. I said I'm fully remote. I'm not really fully remote. I do go into the office once a year because I want to meet the people that Nathan has brought in, the new people, and I see him on Zoom all the time, but I don't get to meet him. But I do go in once a year. I mean, truly, this is the wave of is going to be, and it's really easy to get on board, especially with
Yeah.
services
Let
like the
me
Can
let
best
me
I?
just
part.
pause. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we're almost at time. Do we have any questions from
So
Neonu, Peter?
Naomi had a question that she put in chat a while ago.
Oh,
And so I would love to hear Tom and Elijah's view on this. And so she wrote also in the beginning of building an EP firm with all the stages being virtual, but the signing, she justifies it by building her referral network, and the live touch point makes it more likely that they will refer if she meets them in person for the signing. So I just was curious your thoughts on that.
I
Yeah,
think. I'm sorry, Tom. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, if that's what they're expecting is that you're going to be there and you let them down, absolutely. But if they don't expect it right out of the gate, and you're saying this and you're sending them a nice handwritten thank you note, which we do, like, thank you for retaining us. We look forward to working with you. And then you're checking in with them. I mean, I don't think it's any less personal. Elijah, how about you?
I think that it's a misunderstanding. Well, at least for me, that they may absolutely be true. That may absolutely be true. But I think that it's a misunderstanding with what the signing ceremony actually represents. Because the signing ceremony represents a connection with a customer that someone else sees value in. And so I would very strongly recommend asking what would be some ways that the financial advisor could see the value that you provide to them and their customer. Could that be through a funding meeting rather than a signing meeting, so that after the signing meeting occurs, you have a funding meeting with the customer and the financial advisor, and then you show that the financial advisor actually knows and you make them shine to the customer? Would that be useful? Or perhaps you can have an additional meeting with the customer and their family and the financial advisor to talk about future expectations and what's supposed to happen after they pass away. I think what you're looking for a convenient connection point, and it's totally okay. What I think about is how can I have what I want and what's more effective. And so how can I do both of those things at the same time? And if I can, then I investigate it, experiment with it, try it out a few times, see which one actually works better, and then move forward.
love it, Elijah. And sometimes, Neonu, some clients choose to appear on Zoom. So the notary's there, there's a laptop there, and then attorney can effectively, without driving, without having to maybe, go into that whole expense, still be there, and not have to worry about the documents and the accuracy. They're just there in case they can kind of chat a little bit, and someone else is dealing with the witnesses and capturing signatures.
Very helpful, everyone. Thank you.
I will say when I
Thank
first started doing it in 2018, because we had so many offices, I just couldn't get to all the offices for the signings. And so I would remote in, and people did think that was a little weird that I used Go to my PC back then. Remember that one? And I would remote in, and people would see that, and they're like, "What the heck? I'm in your office in your conference room, and you're remoting in that." But now it's mainstream. It's just totally mainstream. And in fact, I think people like it because they can just call from the comfort of their own home and not have to go in and I think they look at the signing meetings as a pain in the patoot when they have to show up live.
There is, however, a pain point to understand, Tom, and this is actually a big thing for some attorneys. The big thing is that the customer that has to put more effort into the conversation oftentimes convinces themselves to hire before they come in. And so the customer that has to get in their car and drive down the street and make sure that they're in another office, and they see all the awards on the wall, and they see it looks like a nice place, and it feels different, and it's not your home. And I mean, all these things, they have an influence on the person, whether they sign. So live meetings have a higher close rate than Zoom meetings. I totally get that. And so the next step after that, for what I understand, to go to an enterprise model, the first step is that the attorney has to get themselves largely out of basic administrative tasks. Then the next step is they have to get themselves out of basic production. Then the next step is that they have to get themselves out of either the sales conversation or the administration conversation. Either operation, administration, or out of the sales. They have to get themselves out of that in order to scale to an enterprise model. And so if you're deciding that you're going to be the salesperson, if you are the salesperson, great, then scale that way. But understand that if you're on Zoom, there is a lower close rate. So you have to make more efforts in the sales conversation before they even meet with you to do that. Our Google close rate used to be 15%, which is called an accidental rate. Basically, people contact you and they hire you just because they wouldn't have done it anyway. And our Google close rate has now risen to 30%, but it took us 2 years to do it. And so we've doubled our close rate. And so now that it's 30%, we have salespeople on staff, we have intake people on staff, we have automations. Now we're ready to scale. So now we can triple or quadruple or 10x or 100x our Google advertising numbers, and we know that as long as we have this 30% close rate, we can continue throwing more money in and more money in and more money in and more money in, and more money comes out the back end.
Incredible.
You have to experiment with it and have it grow.
Gentlemen, this is incredible. I am so grateful that both of you came here. We're at the top of the hour, so if there's any more questions, we can definitely stay on and chat a bit more. But I just want to thank both of you for an incredible presentation. I've learned so much, and I'm like deep in this stuff. So really, really grateful. Thanks for the presentation. And how can people reach either of you, Tom and Elijah? What is the best way for folks to get in touch with you, Tom?
This is the best way. I just put it up on the screen. That's our phone number. And then you schedule a time. We have a sales coordinator that kind of makes sure that this is you understand what the solution is type of thing. And then if it still works for you, then set up a call with me to go through which group would be most appropriate. The secret to Elijah is in a group that is high drivers that have grown from primary drivers to enterprise leaders. And some are a little behind and some are a little ahead. The magic is putting people in the right group. It doesn't work to have somebody who's doing 3 million matched up with somebody who's doing 300,000. They're just different issues. One's not better. They're just different.
In the group that I joined, I was the last in that group. I was dead last. Meaning
still the new guy.
I was the smallest. I had the least revenue, and I just started adding as many things as I could. My first meeting, I took 28 pages of notes, single-spaced, typed as fast as I could. And the last meeting that we had, which was last month, I took 3 pages, and they were basically interspersed because I've learned so much. Now I think my firm is 3rd or 4th in the group by revenue. Only because I'm driven to grow. This is what we're doing. We're driving to grow. And so it's just a question of how quickly you want to grow, because Tom's group is absolutely amazing. You meet together. The reason why I love those groups so much, and I really do, is because I can bring an honest concern that I would never bring to anyone else, even my wife. and I can bring an honest concern about the business, and I can present it to these individuals, and they will keep it secret, and they will give me their honest feedback. And they have given me some really, really harsh things, but they've also given me a lot of love and a lot of care and a lot of encouragement. I can go to them and I can say, we're having this big problem, and they'll explain it to me. There was one year where we were sitting with a group of individuals, and there was one individual in the group who said, my marriage is falling apart, but I have so many goals with the business. And everybody in the group paused and said, why do you care about what the business is doing right now? Can you set it on autopilot? Can you save your savior? Because the things that we do in business should not be to drive business. The things that we do in business should be to drive happiness and fulfillment in your life, whatever that looks like. And so yesterday was my birthday, and I sat, my kids and my wife had a birthday cake for me on the table. And there was a candle in the cake, and they lit the candle and we sang happy birthday. And they said, make a wish, Daddy. And I didn't have anything to wish for. I thought, I have everything that I want. I want other things for my business, but in my family, this is what I want. And the business needs to serve the family, not the other way around.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Elijah. And Peter, your dad, Peter, has been an attorney for many years. Tom, is this only for estate planning attorneys, by the way, or do you have other
it's estate planning. Some folks have adjacent practices like, elder law, probate, a little bit of real estate, some business, but most everybody in the group have revenue streams from estate planning. That's not insignificant. It doesn't have to be the thing, but
yeah. So Peter, what do you think about all this?
It's super interesting. Yeah, my background is operations primarily, and I have a finance and economics background, so definitely speaks to me. I've been working with, tech teams for 15 years, starting on Wall Street and then moving more toward law. So it's super relevant.
Yeah, glad to have you here. And Peter, I know that your dad is kind of an old school divorce attorney. What would you say it would be a way to convey kind of like the modern way of doing things to him, given that he likes to do TV advertising. How is that working out these days, and is he moving along with the times?
So we cut the TV advertising, which I was very happy about. Because I'm a little bit more, digital focused. Yeah, I think the best way is just having multiple conversations and just kind of understanding what people are looking to do and why they're looking to do it. But there's a lot going on right now. I think people kind of get it that you have to be in with the times, and whether that's, AI or whatever, you have to.
It's not AI. AI is just a tool. In my estimate. My estimation, AI is just a tool. I just built an MCP server today. That means a server for my tool, whatever. But that's tech. It's just a tool. It's people ever since agriculture, people have been using tools to do more in the same place. That's all it is. It's a new tool. It's still going to be human relationships and human connection, and especially humans delivering the court delivered product, because that's what divorce attorneys do, right? No AI is going to sit down in front of a grieving wife and is going to say, "I'm so sorry this happened to you. Let me help you protect your children." AI can't do that, right? What I think a lot about is I think back to going to the doctor's office. If we as attorneys, as law firms, or Eli as a service, right, look at other people's models to see how they work, and pull a lot of gems from them. So I remember going to a doctor's office and having an outpatient surgery. I won't say which one, just because it's weird, but that doctor did eight surgeries a day, and they took like 45 minutes each. And I arrived at the doctor's office and there were a bunch of people in the waiting room. And no, I'm sorry, she did 18 a day, not 18 a day. And so just showed up at the doc. It was half an hour for me, but mine was long. And so showed up at the office. The doctor didn't check us in, the admin staff did. The doctor didn't take my blood pressure, the CNA did. The doctor didn't look at my vitals, the nurse did. The doctor didn't prescribe anesthetic or anything like that. The nurse practitioner did. The doctor didn't review the chart. The nurse did. The doctor came in, did the procedure, left. Everybody else did the stuff around the doctor. So I try to run my office the same way, where we have really good paralegals and really good staff. And so now that our firm has grown, our staff is actually half and half. We have half administrative staff, half business staff, and half law staff. That's just how it is. Because I think that's how any good business is. And any good business, you have the square root of the number of people who are actually in the business are producing 75% of the business product. So we have now 14 people on staff. That means that the square root of 14 is going to be four. There should be 4 individuals at the firm who are producing 75% of the legal product, and everybody else at the firm is supporting them. And that's just a natural law. And it actually is true. 4 people at this firm produce 75 to 80% of the product. Just how it is.
Hey, Elijah, did you watch that movie F1 with Brad Pitt? Formula
I
One?
didn't. Is that a
Great line in that movie.
Right?
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about what you said about the staff around the doctor, Elijah, right? The driver, right, doesn't touch the car or the wheels or the improvement. Every little 1% increase in aerodynamics is an edge in the race. So imagine if the driver had to worry about tires on the steering wheel and the aerodynamics. There is no way, right, you could do what these folks do. So I think the main person behind the business, the legal core business, needs to be protected. One of my attorney clients says she protects her attorneys from anything which would be an extra demand upon them. So when they meet the clients who are dealing with, as you said, Elijah and Peter knows very difficult personal circumstances and fears and worries, they have to be fully present to be able to provide that, 100% empathy and care. So I think that is why, learning how to work with systems can really just create more impact in the world. That's how I see it. You can serve more people in more places and not have to, be drowning in the minutia of the kind of the grind that burns people out and makes them hate being lawyers.
Yeah. The owner of the firm has to slow down, and because if they are moving frenetically, systems aren't going to get built, processes aren't going to get built, and scaling stops. And the line I love in F1 is slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and that's what the business owner needs to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. Slow down to speed up.
Exactly. Slow down.
That is a lovely summary, I think. And I'm noticing our time and really appreciate this is such an important and dynamic conversation that we went long a bit because there's such a need and interest. But thank you, Tom.
Absolutely.
Elijah and
Peter. We have to have you back, Tom. This is only the
for
beginning.
Coming.
Anytime.
Yeah. And I know, even though I'm not an attorney, learned a lot about business and operations. I think this is incredibly helpful. How do we delegate more and get out of the business to take a step back, right?
Yeah.
It's so important. So
what's really fun is one of the attorneys in Elijah's group did primarily real estate. And then when he saw what we were doing, and he did some estate planning, now he just eliminated all real estate in his practice. He's replaced it all, and it's all estate planning because it's just so much more oriented towards building the systems and the processes and having a good life. I'm thinking about Tom, Elijah. He used to do, before you were there, he used to do a ton of real estate.
The only thing about Tom, which is annoying, is that he's a sole producer, so his numbers screw up everybody else's numbers. So comparing my revenue per salary dollar, his is like way up there.
It is.
I'm thinking, Tom, you messing with my numbers, man.
He is.
He's a great guy. He's
He's
fantastic.
doing some things right as a solo and not doing it all himself in some way. He's got to have some sort of secret.
Yeah.
He is an efficiency machine.
Yeah, he leveraged. So there's three things you can leverage. There's processes and systems. There's technology, and there's people. And you just got to pick the lever that you're going to do. And I think that the lever you first pick is technology. You get your tech stack, and then you can pull the lever on processes and systems, and then you pull the lever on human resources. That's what I think. I don't, Elijah, if you have a different feel for it, but those are the real things that.
I think that's really good. I think, however, that we're missing one big step, which is integration. And so there's a really good book called Traction, which is the start of a entrepreneurial operation system, and another good book, which is the follow-up to that book, called Rocket Fuel. And so if you read Rocket Fuel, it talks about two key people in every single business that goes dramatically big, and it's the visionary, the person that has a vision, and the integrator. So that's like in Berkshire Hathaway, that was Warren Buffett and his partner, who I can't remember his name right now. In McDonald's, it wasn't the guy who started it, was Ray Kroc. He was the integrator. It wasn't Henry Ford, it was his integrator. So I think that the visionary can have a million different ideas, but the integrator needs to choose the two that have the most effect. And when I did that, when I brought in an actual integrator and I gave that person power and control to actually affect the system, our estate plan deliveries dropped from 12 weeks to 3.
Wow.
Weeks to deliver.
Is that Christina, Elijah? Is that Christina?
And now what she's doing is now she's taking the trust administration deliveries, and she gave me a task. She said, I'm gonna do this, but Elijah, you are more familiar with technology. You build this system, and then I will roll it out. So I build systems, she rolls them out, because I love to invent stuff, but she rolls them out, she gets people aligned, she gets people interested in the same thing, she gets them moving in the same direction, using all the tools. So I'm building and building and building all these tools, but she says, Elijah, choose one. I'll roll it out for the next month, but you choose one. Which one is most important? Choose one. Only one. So I get to build as many tools as I want, but choose one. It's really the visionary and the integrator working together that make the firm go.
And that's
Stephanie's laughing because she's my integrator.
It's a book by Gino Wickman. So it's Gino, I think it's Gino Wickman, and he's done a bunch of books too that complement that. And it is a great system. It's a wonderful system. Having any sort of system to take down these projects is important. And as you probably have discovered, Epic is really not very much about estate planning, except that all the businesses are estate planning law firms.
Yeah, I figure your I can tell your focus is very much on operations and economics and strategy, and
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm curious, Neanu, how is your kind of firm coming along, and are you employing some of these strategies in your firm to grow?
Yes, and so much more to do. I am just celebrating 1 year in solo estate planning practice
Congratulations.
this month. Yes. So
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, I'm still solo with a part-time paralegal. And so I've learned a lot here in terms of what's possible. So this is tremendous time to think about, where I can take it. And so I have a little bit of like all of these levers, definitely got a clear process, have a tech stack, have, in addition to myself, a part-time person, not as much integration as I would like, but I can tell, I'm just at the beginning stages of all of those categories. And so, could definitely benefit from the wisdom of others of now, what's the next step to continue to really be able to achieve those revenue metrics goals that you're talking about? Because I'm clearly in every single one of the pockets. I'm still in the do everything hat stage and ready to take this next year to move further up the spectrum towards enterprise operator.
6 years ago, I was exactly where you are. That's where I was. I'm the founder. 6 years ago, I was working on a card table in my back bedroom. So, I mean, this is how we start. And you're farther along than I was, because I didn't hire a part-time assistant for at least 9 months, and I needed one really bad. So, I think I like to think about something like the franchise model. There's a bunch of statistics about whether firms, whether companies, new companies like yours and like mine was, whether they succeed or whether they fail. And the new companies, new restaurants fail at 90% chance within the first year. But a franchise will succeed 95% of the time. So what's the difference? The difference is public awareness and a system. And so I like to take from other people's systems and use them myself. And so what I did is I bought a book. The very, very second book that I bought as a new attorney, as owning my own law firm, was called The E-Myth Attorney. E-Myth, which is the entrepreneurial myth attorney, written by two guys who started a company called the American Academy of Estate Planning Attorneys. They're estate planning attorneys, and they're writing how to run a law firm. And so that book, they published privately, and I don't know how I got a hold of it, but I did. They published their 100 secrets that are enclosed in that book, 100 secrets about how to run a successful law firm. And when I got that in my first year of practice, that became my 5-year goal. This is our 5-year vision. Enact these 100 principles right here. And I think that we are currently at 98. We didn't do the last 2. And so I think that if you do that, just that one thing, maybe it'll work for you. That's what worked for me. I like the franchise model. I like to know what worked previously. I just recreate it and then I do it better, right? And so I would get that book. In fact, Tom told me that he reads that book every single year.
I got it here. I haven't read it this year. True confession.
Now you're
read it this year.
Now
I will. Yeah, that'll be my reminder.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful. I am completely a believer of no need to reinvent the wheel. Eli, you're familiar. I did go through the 2HLL program, which did give me the fundamentals to kind of like set up a practice. And so that's what I'm continuing to do, is try to learn from folks like you all who've done it well, and not, reproduce all the same mistakes, but, maybe create a couple new ones along the way.
Well, when you join peer group, people just give it to each other. They just share their stuff. They just like, hey, I did this. I'm in California, and I don't know where you are, Leone, or Maryland.
Maryland.
Elijah's in California. He shares stuff with people all over the country.
Just give it away.
And Naomi, Elijah, and Tom. So we basically decided to aggregate all of the amazing information we've been learning that can help estate planners into one website, trustedy.ai. Put a link in the chat. Eli, the books you mentioned today are all going to be there by the end of the day. I'm going to do one prompt to Lovable, and it's going to find the book, put a link to it, a little summary, and put it under the right section, the book section, because that's how we grow. We grow by sharing the information. On the same website, trusted.ai, I have curated all of the top legal plan providers in the US, MetLife, ARAG, from a new one just the other day called CLC. These are amazing ways to have a continuous stream of clients. I don't want to call them practice clients, but these are clients that may not pay a ton of money, but they're giving you access to networks and to types of services, right? Without the heavy burden of having to invest in marketing dollars. So I just kept seeing my top heavy hitters, they all take insurance, while the other half are saying, never take insurance. It's terrible. Don't touch it.
Has thoughts on this.
It all depends on where you are. It all depends on where you are in your practice.
So, Eli, the most the most money I think I make on hour on average is through the legal insurance programs because
There
it's
you
all
go.
systematized.
There you
Eli
go.
or Elijah, are you doing the insurance-based
We
stuff?
are not, because I don't have a novice attorney, although
Systems.
I might soon, but I am now creating, and it'll be done very soon, a system which would very easily systematize that. So
It
the
is gorgeous. It's beautiful. We've got it down to less than an hour from start to finish. It's
They're so
yeah,
simple, Tom, right? They're just profit avoidance plans, basic, straightforward. You could do it on autopilot. And
Yeah.
Elijah, I might have an attorney for you based in Los Gatos, who I have about to start doing this for herself, but I think she wants to belong to a team. She's a very experienced tax attorney. So I'm happy to make an intro,
Good.
Elijah. I think you'll like
Make
her.
the introduction, please, because I would love an attorney who tried it on her own, didn't really want to hack it, wants to join a fantastic team, wants to work hybrid. I would love that because I need to get myself out of either trust administration probate or Medicaid planning or tax planning. And I need another attorney on staff who can handle simple stuff. So that would be phenomenal. Send me an intro. I'd love to meet her. Thank you so much. And we need to have lunch again.
Of course, my pleasure. Folks, this is amazing. We'll have Elijah back.
well, thanks for having
and
me.
Tom back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're all wiser and we'll be growing our businesses no matter what kind of business they are. This has been phenomenal. Thank you so much, folks.
Yeah, have a great
Enjoy the
day.
rest of your week.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having me.
Appreciate
much.
y'all. Take
Bye.
care.
Take care.
Come join us on Zoom every Wednesday of the month at noon Pacific and 3 p.m. Eastern. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified when new episodes are released. This speaker series is sponsored by The Best Notary, your trusted document concierge from Maui to Maine.